Revelations about the relationship between the American businesswoman Jennifer Arcuri and the then Mayor of London, Boris Johnson, first emerged in 2019 when questions were raised around why Hacker House, a new company established by Jennifer Arcuri, was given £100,000 by the Department for Digital, Culture, Media and Sport. Other behaviour that we must question is why Boris Johnson spoke for free at 4 tech events organised by Jennifer Arcuri.
Thank you very much, Jennifer.
Thank you for coming and hanging out with us.
My pleasure.
Jennifer Arcuri was able to go on trade missions organised by the London Mayor's office, even though she didn't meet the criteria for such trips. Was there a conflict of interest?
You like hanging out with us, right?
I do. I'm always happy to hang out at InnoTech.
Fast forward to the last few weeks, and in an extensive interview with the Daily Mirror, Jennifer Arcuri has now confirmed that she was in a 4-year-long sexual affair with Boris Johnson while he was married and while he was Mayor of London.
If you are having an affair with someone and you pay them £126,000 of public money, that becomes very, very reprehensible. And if you put them on trade missions and also write letters suggesting that they get jobs which they're not qualified for, again, the fact you're having an affair with them is important.
We've seen a pattern emerging of close associates of the Conservative Party, of donors benefiting from millions of pounds in public contracts. This is public money. Surely it is in the public interest to know whether Jennifer Arcuri benefited from her status as having a sexual relationship with Boris Johnson. One of the really curious aspects was the lack of coverage of these new claims by the BBC. Now, at that stage, the last time that the BBC News had reported on the Arcuri affair was last May, under a headline that Boris Johnson will not have to face any criminal inquiry. I approached the BBC News' press office and asked where the coverage was. Surely this was a matter of public interest. The response back from the BBC was that stories are always considered due to their editorial merit, and that the story of Arcuri and her affair with Boris Johnson has been covered substantially when there have been newsworthy updates. Byline Times writer Patrick Howes, who's a former BBC producer and journalist, talked to his former colleagues in light of these comments about newsworthiness and editorial merit. According to his former colleagues, this was coming from the top, a fear of casting Boris Johnson in a bad light, and this notion of appeasing people who don't seem to like the BBC very much. In January, Byline Times also reported that the new chairman of the BBC, Richard Sharp, has donated more than £400,000 to the Conservative Party. The new Director General of the BBC, Tim Davie, also stood as a Conservative Party councillor during a political career. Has the BBC been captured? I don't ask these questions because I want to bash the BBC. I've always loved the BBC. It has always been the channel through which huge swathes of the British public find out about what's going on in its country. Fundamentally, it's a question of public trust. Curiously, after my question to the BBC about why the new claims by Arcuri hadn't received any coverage, a story did appear, and it was about how the Conservative Party provided financial support to the now Prime Minister when claims of a relationship between him and Arcuri first surfaced, and the Independent Office for Police Conduct were looking into whether a criminal inquiry was necessary. Being a journalist during the time of Boris Johnson as British Prime Minister has been eye-opening, to be honest, because of the sheer lack of accountability that this government wants to open itself up to. It just begs the question, what next? If Johnson acts with impunity and knows that he won't be held to account, either by the opposition, the media, where does this sort of behaviour end? He goes from scandal to scandal, becoming more and more untouchable, it seems. Impunity reigns, and this in itself decays the fabric of British democracy. And it's up to all of us to care about this and ask. It may just seem like a story of an affair with Jennifer Arcuri, which didn't receive that much public interest, but it's so much bigger than that. And if Boris Johnson feels very confident that he has no case to answer for and acts with integrity and honesty with regards to Arcuri and her claims, then what else will he use that argument for? What else will he feel empowered to hide from us? Independent, fearless and investigative journalism has never been more important to this country. If you want to support building a genuine alternative to the British mainstream press, then please do support organisations like Byline Times and of course Double Down News, which you can support on Patreon.